Hi, and welcome to this presentation on the YPO DPS for Enforcement Agency Services. I presented this to the CIVEA conference on 20th September and decided to record it so we are able to share it with anybody who was unable to attend that conference. So I'd just like to start with a bit of background information and about how we got to where we are today. Back in 2013, we became aware that a number of procurement exercises for enforcement agency services were being abandoned, and this included one from a partner organisation of ours. This led to a number of customers contacting YPO to ask if we would consider putting a solution in place. And to be honest, at first, we said no. There is obviously a reason why these are being abandoned. However, in 2014, we spent a lot of time researching and engaging with the industry and with customers. We spent a lot of time out meeting customers to understand the challenges, to understand why previous attempts to put a framework in place had failed, and to really understand the changes that were happening to the taking control of good regulations. And all this research and engagement paid off. In 2015, we launched our first ever DPS for enforcement agency services. That DPS was live for 2 years, and during those 2 years, we awarded 31 competitions on behalf of 52 local authorities, although those awards weren't without their headaches. So when the time came for us to look at the reprocurement, again, we spent a lot of time considering our options and really trying to establish if there was still a need for YPO to have a solution in place. So again, this resulted in me spending time visiting suppliers and literally asking the question, what do you want from YPO? Would you be happy if YPO were to walk away from this marketplace, never to be seen again? And we did get a lot of yes. However, when I explained the services that YPO were providing and actually what it was we were trying to achieve, we actually realised that our objectives were more or less aligned. So it was agreed that there was a place for YPO, and we developed this new DPS, and we've had approval from CIVEA and sponsorship from them, and they've actually described this as the preferred route to market. So the new DPS is now live. It was launched on the 29th of August and is ready for customers to access. And without getting too technical, a DPS is a procurement tool that is available, which remains open for new providers to be accepted onto it. So rather than a traditional framework, which is essentially a closed list, once it has been awarded, the suppliers on that list stay the same until it is renewed. A DPS is open to new providers to be added on at any time. Say, for example, they missed the original advertisement or they were unsuccessful at the first time for whatever reason. And it provides a route to market for customers so they can access a list of pre-approved providers where they can run a further competition for their own enforcement agency needs. And through managing our DPS for 2 years, we've listened, we've hopefully learnt, and we've developed this new DPS with a much wider scope than previous. We can now cater for the collection of more debt types, so whether that is the traditional council tax collection, parking or road traffic fines, or high court enforcement, sundry debt, they are now included, as are more types of services, so whether that is a repossession, whether it's eviction from land, tracing services, they are now included. And basically the scope is so wide that any service that an enforcement agent can provide can literally be procured under this DPS. So as a customer, the question obviously is, why? Why use the YPO DPS? As a customer, there are probably a number of options open to you. You could access another framework that is on the market. You could do your own procurement from scratch. You could continue with an SLA or an agreement with your incumbents. So why use the YPO DPS? And we do recognise that there is actually a fee to use the YPO DPS. However, by using the YPO DPS, you do get access to a number of benefits. We offer tailored guidance. So we read each and every further competition before they are advertised to the market, and we provide feedback and guidance to customers based on our experience. We have dedicated support, so not only am I around as a category buyer within this sector, we also have an administrator who is dedicated to this DPS. And she's around to ensure that customers have all the information they need at all times during the process and make sure that things are answered when they should be and uploaded when they should be. So that is the main focus of her role. We've also developed a lot of market awareness and insight based on the 2 years that we've been providing this service, and we'd like to share that with our customers, providing best practice feedback, trying to make sure that actually documents are fit for purpose and in line with requirements. And we can also provide advice around what's happening in the marketplace. So if there are a number of further competitions out in the market at one time, we can maybe have a word with a customer to say, could you delay yours by a couple of weeks, just to ensure that the suppliers are actually not overcrowded with tenders, and actually does mean that they then are more focused on your requirements. And we also have a toolkit available for customers to utilise. Now this includes a user guide, it includes our model terms and conditions which are approved by the industry as well. We have a further competition template, a question library, evaluation guidance, basically anything a customer needs in order to complete the further competition process. And as we've been using most of the toolkit for the past 2 years, it's seen as approved by the industry. And we also aim to continue to develop those documents as well. We see them as living and breathing documents, so we always make sure that they're fit for purpose and in line with industry standards. And we would like to work with CIVEA and with the industry to create more of these documents, such as a minimum specification, for example. And it's important to remember that YPO are here for our customers. We're here to provide that helping hand, that guidance right through the process, and we provide an end-to-end facilitation of that process. And this includes, first of all, creating the space on the YPO e-tendering portal. So this is where documents are advertised, it's where the providers submit their responses and any questions. It's basically where everything happens online. We provide customers with documents of the toolkit at the relevant stages, and we read our documentation prior to publishing them. And like I said before, we provide feedback on those documents. Now this process can take anything from one draft to a number of back and forth conversations in order to make sure the tender documents are ready for publication. We then publish the documents out to the suppliers, and even though this is an online task, it's kind of seen as a bit of an admin task that YPO are then taking off customers to help facilitate and help make the process that much easier. While the documents are out with providers, we start populating our evaluation and scoring documents. And again, this is an admin heavy workload. And YPO are now taking that off customers, again, to make the process much smoother, much easier. When the time gets close to the submission deadline, we work with customers in order to give them access to the YPO e-tendering portal, where they can download the submissions. And again, we give guidance around that for anybody who's not familiar with the system. And then when it gets to the deadline date, we verify the submissions and we release them ready for you to undertake your evaluation. So throughout the process as well, we manage clarifications. So every time a supplier maybe asks a question on the tender documents, we download that and send it to customers in an easy to read and easy to answer format. We also can offer advice on the questions where possible to make sure that the answer is an appropriate answer. And then we upload that onto the portal for all the suppliers to see. Once the evaluation process has been completed and you've identified your winning provider or providers, we provide help with the award process. So first, we provide advice and feedback regarding the actual letters themselves in terms of the level of information that the suppliers expect, and then we send those letters to all providers who've submitted a response. And then we're around to help with any post-award clarifications or requests for further information. Again, similar to the managing clarifications process, we download those and send them on to customers in an easy-to-answer format. And then at the end of that, we finalise everything by doing some of the boring procurement elements of it, such as completing an award notice and sending that on to ODU and on to Contracts Finder. We're always around, so we're here to help with any contract management issues. So once your contract is awarded, we don't just shut the door and walk away. We're here to help in case you have any issues that you need YPO to step in and help with. Sometimes some customers like to get us involved as framework, or in this case DPS owners. We sometimes can pull our weight and help with any delivery issues. So during our DPS, our previous DPS, we saw many further competitions challenged. Out of the 31 that were awarded, we had a number of others who didn't actually get to the award stage, or some of those 31 had issues with them, whether that be a formal challenge or an informal request for further information. So what we'd like to do is share with everybody some of our top tips to make sure that you do get to that all-important award. The first one of those is get everyone involved early on. Some of the best tenders that we've seen include a cross-functional team, and this could include service users, procurement colleagues, legal colleagues, and not only does this often produce a better tender document, it also ensures that should anything go wrong, you've got the support internally to help out with that. YPO are here to help. However, it is important for customers to understand that we're not a replacement for your own procurement department, who still need to be involved in some shape or form. YPO don't know if you as an organisation actually have any internal documents or processes that you need to go through, so you do need to make sure that you are engaged with procurement in some form. And we always recommend that you allow enough time to plan the procurement. So not only at the start of the process to ensure that you have the time to write a first-class tender document, but at all the stages of the procurement. We advise customers to provide 4 weeks for the providers to respond to the document. So that gives the providers really a good length of time to read your requirements and really understand it. And it gives them time to prepare an equally first-class response. And one thing I would suggest is to not underestimate the time it takes to do the evaluations. I did have one customer who only scheduled in 2 days for the evaluation, which with all good intentions is probably a bit unrealistic. We actually find that the average submission rate is around 7, and that increases if you're within London. So depending on the number of questions that you've asked and any page or word counts that you've put in place, it could turn out to be a lot of reading. So I would make sure that you are realistic with your timescales and that they're actually scheduled in everyone's diaries, so time doesn't get taken over with other tasks. And providing as much data and as much information about you as possible. So in terms of the demographics of your authority, the diversity, your debt profile, any collection issues that you faced and what your debt history looks like. Giving this information to providers really helps them to understand you, which in turn leads to them to providing better response. So with the taking control of goods regulations, price is no longer a factor to be taken into consideration. So you really do need to make sure that the service criteria and the award questions that you've had in your tender documents are tailored to your requirements. YPO, as I said before, can provide you with a lot of information, and we can provide you with our library, question library document. However, it is not intended to be used in its entirety. The current library that we have in place contains almost 70 questions across 16 different categories. So you really don't want to be asking those that level of questions in your documents. So customers really need to think about what it is that you want, how you want to work with an enforcement agent, what's really important to you as an authority. And it is this point is key. The best way to avoid any threat of challenge or a lot of requests for further information is to really make sure that you undertake a robust evaluation process, which is why one of the new services that YPO is offering with this new DPS is more guidance around evaluation and scoring sheets. And we've decided to do this as we recognise that evaluations are not an everyday process for everybody, especially if you're not within a procurement department, and it's not something that a lot of people are familiar with. So our recommendation is that you should always have a minimum of 2 evaluators, preferably taken from your cross-functional team that we mentioned earlier, ensuring that each evaluator reviews and scores the documents independently before coming together to have a meeting to agree a final score. And this is what we often refer to as a consensus meeting or a moderation meeting. We would always say as part of the evaluation process is that you keep detailed notes, so both individual notes as to why you scored a supplier a particular score, and also your consensus notes, so why you came to the decision that you did to give that final score. And that really does help when it comes to providing comprehensive feedback to the providers. And don't avoid providing feedback or comprehensive feedback. It is essential that customers give providers clear and detailed feedback on the scores given for each question and the reasons why they didn't get the maximum scores. It's our experience that providers will only come back and ask you for this information if you don't do it up front. And if you've established a robust evaluation process, the feedback to the providers is really just that, providing them with feedback as to how they can improve next time around. And this part of the process has received quite a bad reputation for providers looking to nitpick results or to challenge the award decision. However, if you are prepared, if you're confident that you've done a robust evaluation process, you've dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's, you should be prepared to stand by your approach, which will ultimately lead you to making that successful award. And that's about it. If you follow our tips, hopefully you should get to that successful award. And as I've probably mentioned throughout this, it is important to remember that YPO are here to help and can help you get through that process. So if anybody's got any questions, if anybody wants more information about the DPS, who wants to access it, please feel free to contact me and I'd be more than happy to help. Thank you.